landscaper live edition. I've never done this before, so chances are things are going to go wrong. That's okay. So I'm just in my Carnivorous Plant Den. Anyone that's seen my videos before will probably know this place very well, or maybe you don't. So maybe it's time to have a quick tour. So essentially this is somewhere I built myself. A home for my carnivorous plants, a sort of testing filming ground where I've got sundews, plants that need care, fly traps, and then I have a host of other ones that are outside in a greenhouse, which tend to be a little bit different. Hi there! We've already had a disaster. So my first live video, I thought I would give Frank, the lobster, a water change. Left the hose pipe in and I've already flooded the place. So all of that stuff under there is totally flooded. And whilst this is supposed to be a Venus flytrap video, hi there! It's supposed to be a Venus flytrap video and it started with disaster. Flooding my den. And Frank the lobster has had a lovely water change. So where do I get my fly traps? That's a very good question. Some of them I get off the internet. So I've had them delivered from companies in the UK such as Hans Flytraps, somewhere called Little Shop of Horrors. And other ones I just collect as I go along. If I see any that are in sort of poor condition or any that look glorious, then I tend to buy them and add them to the collection. Some live outside, which seem to do better, and some live indoors in this carnivorous plant room. It's a sort of experiment, this place, so I'm still learning a lot. And at the moment as well, I'm just working on a giant extension. So sound like a few of you guys have been going through issues. Someone with surgery is getting better every day, which I think is Max, my nephew. Thanks for watching. And then, yeah, I see you also got a Venus flytrap shop near you and you've got 3. That's a great start. These are some of the ones that I've got which need a bit of TLC at the moment. I don't give my Venus flytrap names now. The names are restricted to my lobster Frank, who's quite happily watching what I'm doing, thinking I'm totally mad. And all the little tiny shrimp that live in the tank too. I should maybe give my fly traps names, that's true, but I have probably 20 in here. So let's have a closer look. In fact, one of the lights has just turned off. Great for the live feed. Yeah, these are some of my, probably the ones I would name. These are beasts. They are big old fly traps. You see the size of the pots there. Each one's numbered as well. So I tend to number them because if any need treatment, if I've got any that have been filming, say they've caught loads of stuff, it can weaken the plant. So I try and avoid doing too much filming with the same plant. And I've got these little micro fly traps. So you can see the size of these fellas. I hope you can see that okay on camera. But these are tiny, they're seed grown. Some of them have been stripped off other plants. You can see what they grow alongside there. And you can actually separate them and create new plants out of them. But anyway, I was going to do a little bit of filming just on how I look after these plants. If I can attach my equipment to hold it in place. So hopefully you can see that okay. Because I do a lot of film with these fly traps, they're not like other growers who just sort of leave them to go black and do whatever they want. I try and keep them in slightly better condition. So I've got all this moss alongside, and then all of these black traps I tend to remove. With it being an indoor room, it can quite easily damage the trap, and sometimes they rot out if you're not careful. So it's essential all these black bits are taken away and cut off. And for that I use sharp scissors. So I see, Max, you were saying about you've had an operation 2 weeks ago. I'm glad to hear you're getting better. Sounds like you've been in the wars. What's more therapeutic than watching Venus flytraps? You maintained. I also tend to use, for the more detail work, some trusty tweezers. Give them a snip. Give them a bit of a clean up. I know it seems like a lot of faff, but if you're doing filming for YouTube, you want these plants to look their best. And snipping it away, all the black traps, makes them look that little bit better on camera. In fact, whilst I'm doing this, I'll show you exactly how I do my filming. So at the moment, I've got this articulating arm, and then I have a filming light as well. So what I tend to do, this is rigged up for the phone at the moment. What I usually have is a Nikon D500 SLR. Well, it's not an SLR, it's a digital camera, with a macro lens, which is where you can see all my detailed work. And this allows me to very quickly move up and down, around, above the plant, and allows me to get some killer shots of some of these Venus flytraps and sundews, which I'm sure you will have seen. So I use that, and then this keeps the light steady. This K&F concept filming light, lovely and bright, and you can set the temperature and everything else, and it gets proper geeky with that. In fact, I can hear a buzzing. I'm not sure if you can hear that on camera. There's definitely something. So a quick look, see if there's something living in this. If you guys can see that at all, there's definitely a wasp in there, I think. Let's go and have a look at another part of the den, and I'll turn some lights on. See if we can see a bit better. This is back of house. This is where we keep the fridge, the crap, all the rubbish, and of course the technical side, the lighting system. So we now have light. Let's see if we can see anything in this trap. You can see in there's definitely a wasp in there anyway. That seems to have landed in whilst I'm filming, so straight into the action with that. Well, this is the closest I can give you, Cody Company, to the fly traps in real life, I'm afraid. You might actually see the thermostat there, and then this tiny little cable there. So this is something else I do to keep these plants healthy. I've got this high-tech controller, which I'm not sure if you can see there, which is temperature controlled. It's got the air pressure, humidity, leading up to all these wires, and then there is at the very top of the den an extractor. Now this extractor pulls hot air out of this place, because you can get root rot and all sorts of other problems. So it pulls it down, and then amongst all the wires and all the mess at the moment down there in the shadows, it pulls in cold air, and that's actually all under trees out there, so it pulls in cooler air, pushes it up out of the extractor and keeps the plants healthy. And then above me up there, controlled by the same system, is an AC Infinity fan, and that keeps the air circulating. It's one of the most difficult things about maintaining an indoor carnivorous plant room, is keeping the air fresh. So you're asking, how could I make my fly traps make more nectar, because mine aren't making any? That generally means they are probably stressed. So I would say you may be needing more light. It's either light or the water's wrong. So I'm not sure, are you using tap water? If you're using tap water, then that's obviously an issue. If you're using rainwater, probably perfect. And then lighting wise, I use these Spider Farmer grow lights. I have 2 of them, and there's a huge amount of light that gets through to the plants. The ionized water's good. Yeah, that's exactly right. I use reverse osmosis water, so pretty much the same. So it's probably down to lighting. How long have you got the lights on for? I would ask the question. You'd probably need, I mean, I have mine on for 14 to 15 hours a day. And then it's the strength of the light. You can see this wonky light behind that, actually, which has actually turned itself off. It must be something to do with this live footage. Clearly, it's not happy about us filming live. So let's see if we can make some adjustments to the timers. And we have lights. Right, so you're saying you don't have any grow lights and only 2 hours. So that is going to be your issue right there. I mean, these lights, you can see they're super bright. I mean, these ones over my sundews love light, tons and tons of it. Flytraps, the biggest problem is always light and water. Too many people just use, obviously, tap water, which you're not using, so that's great. You know, you win with that one, but you definitely need more light. You can actually find cheap grow lights on the internet, so it might be worth having a look on Amazon, somewhere like that. If not, find a windowsill that's got tons and tons of sunlight, or worst comes to worst, stick them outside. This time of year, well, I'll show you the blazing light coming through at the moment. So it's perfect conditions outside at the moment. The only reason I've got mine inside is because they are for filming and they are for experiments. So mine remain under these grow lights. You could use a lamp, but it needs to have... So you could use a lamp to, yeah, grow your fly traps, but you need to have a look exactly of the colour spectrum. It needs to be a full sun colour spectrum, basically. So you can get apps on your phone. I'm not sure exactly which ones, but they tell you the brightness, and then yeah, that's probably the best way to do it. Is you can potentially use a lamp, but what you've got is LEDs. So they, with them running 15 hours a day, they can be quite expensive to run. So LEDs are the best way to go. It doesn't always matter with the brightness. It all comes down to the actual range of the temperature. I'll just clip this back on here for a second. Yeah, so it's not as simple, unfortunately. It's just a very, very bright light. As I learned the hard way when my fly traps are struggling and dying off. So if you can get an actual efficient light, I mean, in fact, I will show you something that I've got here, which they're not brilliant. They are not brilliant, but I have actually got these little Amazon jobbies, and they weren't very expensive. They clip on. They've got a simple timer on them as well. 6, 12, or I can't even read that, 18 hours or 16 hours. But you click that, you can set it for 12 hours, turn it on at say 8 in the morning, it goes off at 8 at night, and that might be a really good way. And these do most of the colour spectrum as well. And they plug into USB. Yeah, I think I've heard of that website. Yeah, plug into USB, so yeah, I definitely recommend if your Flytraps aren't producing nectar, then that is going to be the solution, I reckon. Everything's actually taken a battering recently. So I've been away for 3 or 4 weeks on work, and I've had someone else looking after my Flytrap collection, and they messed with the lights and they messed with the watering. And this was like a really lush sundew before, and you can see where one side has survived, where it's been in the sun, and one side hasn't. Yeah, I mean, by all means, get one of the larger Flytraps. You'll find that larger Flytraps tend to be more healthy than the smaller ones. So the smaller ones have got a tiny little rhizome, which means they don't have much power. They don't have much energy stored up. So if you end up getting a smaller one and then you have issues like light or water or aphids, I mean, that's another thing to check for this time of year. Aphids can absolutely trash a plant. It'd be well worth, yeah, just typical Flytrap. Well, a typical Flytrap is the best kind, really. There's a lot of cultivars out there, but they're always weaker. At the end of the day, they're mutations. They're not the only strain. So you've got them the strongest sort, but you can get different sizes. So some of my larger ones, for instance, I mean, this one's actually probably medium size, I'd say. And then, for instance, some of these smaller ones, any issues with those, and they'll just die off. Whereas the beasts there, these massive ones, these huge ones in big pots, I mean, they can cope with anything. They don't even have to go through dormancy. But yeah, if yours are really fast, then that's a good sign. But with the lack of nectar, I would definitely, yeah, consider sorting out that light issue. Yeah, that's a good sign. Definitely a good sign if they're closing fast, for sure. This is something I seem to spend hours doing at the moment, is trying to get my sundews and Flytraps back to life after other people have looked after them. It could be another issue as well if you're having any issues in terms of things going black or there's not much air to the plant. I mean, I make sure I've got fans, there's air movement, particularly for indoor plants. So it might be worth checking that out as well. I don't know if anyone knows much about sundews, but you can hack them right back. In the wild, they tend to get mashed around a little bit, smashed up by wind, and yeah, you can just give them a good chop. How much do you feed them? I can see you saying you feed your traps. How often do you feed them, would you say? All these brown leaves are not doing any good on this plant. As soon as you get all this dead growth, you just get no air around the rootstock. And things just start going mouldy. Oh, so you don't feed them too much then? Well, they'll absolutely benefit from a little bit more feeding. And check as well, is it just one Flytrap coming out in the middle? Or so this one, for instance, there's one Flytrap plant there, and there's one right next to it. And there's even, I'm not sure if you can see it, there's just one under there as well, that little tiny one. So this is actually 3 plants. So if I was to feed sort of that main plant there, that other plant wouldn't actually get anything. But this one's eating itself. It's another thing I tend to do. So the big growers wouldn't do this, but something I quite like to do is, if it's a bit clustered inside, they try and eat themselves. Just trying to get a trap out, which hasn't worked. Right, I need to put this one down to try and get this. And get another pair of tweezers. It's basically cannibalizing itself here, I think. See the little trap inside the big trap? There we go. Separated and saved. You see that one's doing the same as well here. So that one, if you're not careful, will grow into another trap. And then when something gets caught, they all close on each other and it just gets a bit of a mess. Like that one there as well. It's closed on the other trap. So these are just some of the little things I do just to make the plants a little bit better. Yeah, see you're feeding them 4 times a month. That's fine this time of year. You know, it's as if you're feeding every single trap. You know, if you fed every single trap, then you probably end up with a plant that's just can't process the nutrients. So yeah, feeding 4 times a month is absolutely fine. And then yeah, get more traps, get more fly traps, and then you can feed as much as you want then. It's also what you feed them as well. If the traps go black straight after, quite often it's either that the trap's old or it's the wrong type of prey for the plant. If any of these have actually got anything in. I did a video recently on opening old traps, trying to see if there was any remains of insects inside. Take care now, Max. It's not the end of the world if you fed all of your traps. I wouldn't worry too much. It's just something you don't want to do very often. It will get nutrients it needs, but traps that are activated take a huge amount of energy from the plant. I'm sure you know. So again, I'm just snipping along here, trying to remove everything. Just give this a bit of breathing space. Oh, there's an old creature in there as well. A long court bug. Camera doesn't seem to want to focus in on that. Look. Long digested. Yeah, this sundew is a total mess. It's going to take a bit of work to clean up. I'd say one of the key things for indoor plants is getting air around the rhizomes. This one certainly is a mess. This was one of my fastest plants. If you've watched any of my videos recently, you've seen very quick sundew reactions. Then it tends to be this plant, which was about double the size before I went away, and then 4 weeks of abuse and it's destroyed it. This isn't the only plant that's been affected. There's also this one as well. Drosera, this one is. You see one of them's just completely died off. It's flowering. I'm not even sure it's time of the year for these plants to flower. Some of them look healthy. You can see it covered in dewdrops. Other ones are just mangled and dead. So I'm actually going to snip that one straight off. Yeah, it's just completely rotted out and not looking great at all. Don't worry, if you look after your plants well enough, they'll be as big as your friends, I'm sure. I'm afraid the beauty of growing these carnivorous plants, and any plant, is they are living organisms, a bit like humans. So some of us are tall like me, some of us are short, and the same with plants as well. But it is going to be down to light more than anything. Not a great amount of feeding, not too over the top. You know, they will catch things naturally. If it's indoor, it'll probably catch spiders and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, don't overthink fly traps. Just keep the basics there and they're generally okay. As you can see in there, tiny little self-seeded sundews. So cutting away this bit, although it seemed quite drastic, there are some little tiny babies in there. So if your friend's making fun of you because you got fly traps that are too small, probably not the best friend in the world to have. I'm not sure how I'd react if people had said to me that my fly traps are too small, but hey, they're plants. And size does not matter when it comes to plants. See? That's one of the smallest sundews I've got. In fact, I've got an even smaller one. But anyway, other than creating a mess, and having a look at what other fly traps might need a little bit of looking after. That's one there. I don't know if you see the spider legs in it. But there are some spider legs hanging out of that, and that has killed that particular trap itself. It looks like the spider's half hanging out as well. So we shall leave that. It's probably still digesting some nutrients out of it. It is a beast, this fly trap. I love this one. It just seems to be reaching for the skies. You see loads of little dead bodies of various insects it's caught. Yeah, it's probably one of my best ones, and I've repotted that up a few times. So it's a bit of a monster. This is how I like to have my fly traps presented. Getting rid of any of the dead stuff. There's a few more bits. There's a little bit of rot in there as well, you can see. Just at the bottom. We get rid of all the black bits and it makes the perfect candidate for filming. And another one, which I'm not sure if you can see that, which has had a spider in it. I love opening old traps and looking what's inside. Ooh, a bit of a pincy spider there. It's got huge pincers on the front of it. Obviously no match for the fly trap. Anyway, that's about half an hour of live footage of how I maintain plants. My den. Frank the lobster who's hiding away. The flood that I managed to cause. My fly traps which are ever growing. And then, yeah, maybe I'll do some live stuff again. I don't know. We'll see. It's cool to answer some of your questions. Not many people on here, but then I didn't really announce anything. So what can I expect? Anyway, everyone out there, whoever sees this in the future, stay crazy, stay wild, and stay free.